Welcome to the Coffee Snobs podcast, where we just really love good coffee.
So grab your cup of coffee and join us each episode as we explore any and everything coffee related.
From pour-overs to lattes to the coffee experience. We explore it all because life is too short to drink bad coffee. Here we go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Snobs podcast.
Hello.
This is episode 9. Refining Your Palate. We're going to call this part 2 of our series, How to Know What You Don't Know. And I, for one, am very excited because Chad's back with us.
Yes, he is.
Hey guys,
probationary period.
I'm glad that I'm off probation. I still don't know what I was on probation for, but I'm glad that
well,
now
we don't want to talk
knows.
about it.
Yeah.
Well,
me and Tyler said we weren't going to say talk about it.
I've already said too much. Today's topic is refining your palate. We've had several listeners who have reached out and said they're enjoying what we're covering, but it seems like we have quite a few people who are maybe not new to coffee, but they've been drinking their standard coffee for a while, and they're maybe looking into expanding the types of coffee that they enjoy or they drink or maybe brew at home.
Yeah.
So we thought this would be a good topic to talk about. What are some good steps you can take to refining your palate, finding out what you truly like?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's our whole goal is really to educate you, and with the Coffee Snobs,
So
that's what we do. But
before we get started,
hold on. Before we do get started, I made an error last week on the podcast, and I wanted to address it.
I was very disappointed in you.
I know. Look, okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to try to start cross-referencing my information because there's a pretty
Did you know that Google is not always 100% correct?
Well, it wasn't even the Google. I didn't even. I actually.
It was just a brain
The
fart?
issue was that you were trying to use these strange metric numbers
and we're just
to sound
America.
fancy and
Seriously.
snobbery, and
then I botched it all up. So it is not 1 gram of caffeine.
Yeah, we're talking about the recommended
Caffeine.
FDA amount of caffeine that's good for a daily party. And Aaron, I think you said it was a gram.
Yeah, I said it was a gram, and it's not. It's 400 milligrams. And so
a little more than double.
But I will say this. I just recently came across a drink that has 300 milligrams in one 12-ounce drink.
Is it a Rockstar or Energy or is it a coffee drink?
Yeah, I'm going to leave the name out, but it's like a pre-workout drink that
okay.
they sell it.
So not a coffee drink.
No, they sell it at there is a coffee flavor.
Ugh.
But oh my God, like give you heart palpitations.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to right that wrong because I know
400 milligrams is still a good bit. I mean, what were we saying, in an 8-ounce cup of drip coffee, that's like roughly 80 milligrams. Right. So you could drink 5-6 cups of coffee and still not have heart palpitations, possibly.
So I wanted to fix that. But
that's a good problem.
Let's get into it. So what's new with you, Chad?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing, guys? What's new with coffee? I just got back from Greenville, South Carolina, which is one of my favorite little places to visit. Just a quick little road trip this morning, and stopped by Methodical Coffee on the way out. You've been to Methodical?
I have not been to Methodical. I have not traveled down to Greenville,
Tyler,
but I've heard many good things about it. So.
This is one of Greenville's hidden. Well, that's not really a secret. It's really good.
Yeah,
but
cool. It's good.
They do a lot of pour overs. They've got a nice pour over station, but they obviously roast their own beans, I guess, because I bought some beans from there.
Beautiful facility too.
Oh yeah,
gorgeous.
Yeah, it's
leather and.
No.
Oh.
Well, they do have some kind of wood.
Yeah, they do have wood, but it's very elegant. Like they've got a lot of gold trim. Their decorative dishes. I mean, they get
their espresso machine has a custom artwork on it. I was going to take a picture, but I got distracted.
I actually have a picture.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
yes,
I've been there a few times.
Was it a La Marzica? Or?
Yeah, it's a La Marzica, but they have a custom paint job on it.
It actually is the same pattern as on the bag.
Dude, I didn't realize that.
Dude.
Now, It's got flowers or whatever. The facility is very nice because the entire front of it's like a portion of a large commercial building, but the entire front is glass. I mean, it's 20 feet of glass at the front, very Apple-ish, Apple Store-ish, and so it's very light and bright in there. But anyway, they do really good coffee. I would put it in that same category of not just coffee.
Yeah.
Good vibe, good coffee, good people.
Yeah, denim and leather aprons. So that's another characteristic of a good coffee shop.
Yeah, that's a pro. I mean, come on.
But anyways, that's what's new with me. What's new with you?
Me, not in the coffee world, not really too much. I'm currently drinking a latte I made here in the Lock Dock Studios, and it's quite tasty.
Did you get the Uganda beans, or did you bring your own beans?
He's a counter in the hopper.
Love the good Big Trouble.
Yeah.
What about you?
Not much for me. I am trying to slowly restrain my caffeine content because I'm currently right now, because of the level of coffee that is here at Lock Dock,
milligrams.
Easy. Okay. I'm exceeding by like 12 o'clock. It's quite bad. My drive home is impressive.
It's faster than your drive.
Oh my God, it's like crazy. Yeah. So, that's pretty much it for me.
Cool. So that's new in the coffee game. So moving on to today's topic.
Yep.
Expanding your palate.
Yeah. So let me lead this one
Start us off, Aaron.
because I'm excited about this one because I think this is a very good journey to get us into the coffee snobbery. You're on ramp.
We're trying to turn you into a coffee snob.
That's correct.
Listeners.
So the question is, how do you figure out what you like, your taste? Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to ask you, Tyler, if I have a very minimal setup at the house, okay, I have a Mr. Coffee or a Keurig. Let's go down to as narrow or as wide as we can. Got a Keurig. And how do I try different coffees and find out what I like?
Well, relating to a personal anecdote, basically, one way that is a good starting point, I would say, rather than spending a lot of money on equipment and expensive coffee beans that you might come to find out, this is maybe not my thing, start off with the easiest option, the point of least resistance. Go to a coffee shop. I mean, Starbucks is acceptable, but try to find, what we would consider maybe a good coffee shop in your area and just start trying different drinks. Let's say all you're used to is your Keurig at home. Okay, well, go to a good coffee shop and say, hey, I'd like a latte. And you kind of know your own personal preferences regarding flavors, like do you enjoy vanilla drinks or caramel, stuff like that. So maybe you could start off at a coffee shop and you're getting a good reference point. If you go to, for instance, if you went to Not Just Coffee in Charlotte and said, can I have a vanilla latte, please? You would then know what a very high quality vanilla latte likes. And then you could, try other drinks and brewing methods and maybe this is not my favorite, but that way you're not necessarily investing a lot of time and money in a home setup, but you're able to kind of get a wide base and find what you might most be interested in.
Yeah, so just to remind you, this is the broad stroke, wide view.
We're going to paint a pyramid for you today on refining your palate. And we would say the easiest, getting a good foundation is, how do you know you don't like cappuccino if you've never had one?
Right.
So. Sure, yeah. So find a place. I mean, you don't have to invest in all the equipment to try it. You go somewhere that does it well and try that.
That's just a thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good place, a good way to start. I'm trying to think through how do you define what is? I mean, we talked about that in other episodes. How do you find a good coffee shop? Because to exactly what you just said, I mean, you go to a place like Starbucks or maybe it's your local restaurant and you order a cappuccino there versus a different coffee shop. You're going to get a completely different flavor, but obviously that is completely different compared to Keurig.
True. Right. Well, for me personally, I'll give an example. I had a Keurig, obviously, as discussed previously, would drink it for just if I needed to have some kind of coffee. But I'm going to tell on myself. I think probably the first latte I ever had was at a Starbucks, and it was probably some super sugary latte.
Yeah.
Me naturally, I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, so I know that I would enjoy a sweet thing. But once I had a vanilla, butterscotch, whatever from Starbucks, I was like, oh, I like this idea of a latte. And then when I went to somewhere and tried a plain latte, I was like, oh, I still like how a latte, the consistency of, milk to coffee, but a plain latte is not going to be very sweet other than the sweetness you kind of get from just the milk. So I was like, okay, well, this is one end of the spectrum versus a pumpkin spice or whatever, is on the super sugary side. So I know that maybe I can try a plain vanilla latte. That's something that most places you go, even if they don't have a lot of flavors,
Yeah, they're gonna have vanilla.
pretty much standard latte choices at most places is going to be possibly like a vanilla and a caramel.
Yeah. I think the point of this is there's got to be a starting point.
Sure.
Like, for me, my refining the palate is drastically different, but
Yeah.
I think it's I don't know if I like this. Well, now I try it, and then I can rule it out if I do like it or I don't.
Yeah.
And that leads you down the path.
So let's say next step. All right, let's say you figured out, okay, you know what? I like lattes. So if I've only ever had, for instance, a Starbucks latte, what's the next step in like finding a more refined palate? Like, are you going to go to a nicer coffee shop and try?
So I think you bringing in the lattes and talking like about the sugary drinks is the first step in the coffee journey, because I think not a lot of people will go straight black coffee, right? So they're going to go sugary drinks in that journey. But I think the refining, there's so many variables in those sugar drinks. Like Chad said, you could go to one place and get one and go to the other, and when you go to black coffee or pour overs, you're removing a massive amount of data, and to me, that's when you really start refining your palate. It's you're picking your taste out on those others. It's not refining your palate where you can say this is over extracted or under extracted, or I like this bean versus I like that bean. There's so much caramel and syrup or sugar in those other drinks that literally it's just what tastes good to you. I don't think that's refining the palate. I could be wrong.
It's interesting kind of thinking through this and listening, because I'm down the path what Tyler's talking about. Like, probably my first introduction to a latte would have been at a Starbucks, and it was most likely a flavored, right? So like you just said, very, very sugary. And then, we talked about it on the earlier episodes, went to a place like Not Just Coffee, which is a nicer coffee shop, and got just a plain latte or a vanilla latte or vanilla sugar latte from there. Well, now it's a different type of a sweetness flavor.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then when you go to just a regular latte there, or something that it doesn't have the flavor added into it, now you're getting a robust flavor because of the bean.
Sure, you're actually tasting. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you're saying on the black coffee, if you drink it with no milk, nothing in it, if you go from your Mr. Coffee or your Keurig or your cafe, regular like restaurant coffee, the water to bean ratio is completely off, and it's watered down. It just leaves that weird taste in your mouth. Well, now that you change that to a good coffee shop that actually pays attention to those ratios, I remember one of the first black cups of coffee that I ever enjoyed was at Water Bean up here in Charlotte, because it was a Water Bean coffee shop. They did a siphon brew.
Yep.
And I drank the entire, it was a 12-ounce cup of coffee black, because it was so flavorful.
Yeah.
And you could actually taste the roasting notes in it versus it just being that over.
Yeah, I think you tasted it, and then shortly after, you went and bought a siphon brew.
Yes, yeah. Because I was like, this is amazing, because I would have typically put half and half in it. That's my normal go-to. And I drank that entire cup of coffee black, and it tasted amazing. But I never would have gotten to that point. And that's why I guess what I'm trying to pull in from both sides. I never would have gotten to that point had it not been that other journey.
Sure.
Kind of refining the palate.
And I think for me, I have to remember how I started. I started drinking black coffee, like 2 shots of espresso in drip coffee. So that was where I started. I didn't start with sugary drinks. I didn't even on the Keurig. I don't have a sweet tooth. I really enjoy black coffee. So when I'm giving my perspective, I really want you to understand, understanding where you came from. If you came from where you poured, 4 ounces of sugary syrup into a 4-ounce cup of coffee,
have a little coffee with your sugar,
right? And so, but for instance, my wife, she, is a creamer junkie, loves it, but over the last year, she barely puts any cream in it, and it's just she started to refine her palate and really understand that she really likes this type of coffee, and where coffee's not sweet, right? And so if you have a sweet tooth, you're going to add something to it, right? You're going to have steamed milk that's going to pull out the sugars, or you're going to add syrup to it. Coffee has no sugar, sweet flavors or tones of it at all.
Yeah.
And so if you have a sweet tooth like Tyler does, you're going to add, drinks. But I want to take us down to the second and
the next level,
the rabbit hole.
Sure. And again, so you, the listener, have your own personal taste. You could either be on my end, where I typically enjoy sweeter stuff, or Aaron's. And it's not to say that in developing your palate, you have to get to where you enjoy black coffee.
Right.
If I have a good quality cup of drip coffee or pour over, whatever, I can definitely drink it black now.
Yeah.
I don't think, just being honest with myself, that would all be my preference going forever. But I mean, just because you don't enjoy black coffee does not necessarily mean you don't have a refined palate.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, Aaron, so if we're going to go the next level of the
pyramid, I want to just pause real quick. If you've been on this journey and you've refined your palate, and any of the things that we're talking about kind of aligns with you, please let us know, because we love data. Okay, so we love to hear from our listeners to what they're doing, what journey they're currently on. I just had someone reach out to us on the Instagram and talked about they just bought their first pour over setup.
Oh, sweet.
And I mean, that's what we like to hear. We love to hear that, we're helping you on your journey. They ask for what type of coffee to get in their area, and so I looked it up to see if they had counterculture in the area, because we agree that that's a good one. Mm-hmm. And I think they ordered a bag because they couldn't get it in their area. So, but diving down in this rabbit hole, if you're doing pour over and you're trying to refine your palate, there is a ridiculous amount of different ways to refine your palate. One of the things that a lot of people talk about and suggest is understanding sour versus bitter. Now, I understand we went from adding sugary drinks in this conversation to now understanding sour and bitter. But that's really where you're going to start refining your palate and understand, I like this being from this origin at this roast, because I think that's when you get to that point, that's when this is a desirable beverage and not a caffeinated thing that gets you through the day.
So maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but what you're saying, the next level, let's say, okay, you've established, hey, I think I like pour overs.
Yep.
I've invested in a setup.
Yep.
Maybe the simplest thing is next to, let me find, you are a big fan of Ethiopians, let me find what kind of coffee I enjoy. So before maybe you're trying to dial in the sour notes or whatever, let's say, hey, I've tried this bag of counterculture and another bag of counterculture, but they're two different roasts.
Yep.
And I found out that I typically like bag B.
Yeah.
So you kind of established, this is a coffee that I enjoy, and this is a method, in this case, pour overs, that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So then you add it to your baseline, and now you're working on refining your palate.
Yeah, let me take a step back forward a little bit. I may have jumped a little too deep into that real quick, because I can have a tendency to
jump into it too
come
deep.
on,
Come on now.
I have one mode; it's just over the head. So what I would say is, if you want to refine it at home, go buy multiple bags of beans.
Yes.
Go buy all of the counterculture. This is a good thing. Go buy all of the counterculture bags and make a cup of coffee from each bag. I recommend at least 2 different pour overs to kind of balance each other out. Okay.
Two different from the same.
Nope. 2 different from different bags. So you would buy 2 different bags and make 2 different pour overs, and then drink those one, like take a sip of one, take a sip of the other, and kind of you could like waver them out. Like, you know, one, I like this one, I don't like this one. I like this one as it gets cooler. I like this one. And that is a very easy way to do it. But I would recommend, if you're going to do that, like get multiple bags, right? So like try 5, I know 5 cups of coffee. I know that's expensive. I know it is. So I'm not, but like you got friends, grab each of you buy a bag and come over.
I don't have any friends.
Well, I mean,
Poor Tyler. To kind of build off that, I remember when I first started, it was more of a French press instead of a pour over, but same philosophy. And I went to, at that time, Trader Joe's and just bought, because the beans there were cheap.
Yeah.
Right? So you could get a French roast, you could get an Italian roast, you could get all of the different flavors and then start trying it. And it's, I mean, you can quickly go, this is
Too
not
dark.
something that I like.
Yeah.
Or this is, okay, this is working. And so it's almost like you're talking about going very broad, start knocking off the ones you don't like versus the ones that you do. And then once you kind of say, okay, I like, you know, the Ethiopian blend.
Right.
Well, now let's go in and start investing in some better beans.
Yeah.
right.
Along that line.
Yeah, so maybe you're not sinking in like a lot of money to 5 or 6 bags like as your first step. That might be more like a second, third, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so like for instance, me and my wife, when we got a pour over, we already had a Breville, but I went to Harris Teeter and I literally bought, I think I spent almost $100 at Harris Teeter. Like I bought Starbucks a bag, I bought the Pete's, I bought Counterculture. I mean, I literally bought like Jittery Joe's. I mean, I bought every style I could in the same vein of a light roast to try the different ones out. And one, because I knew nothing about coffee. Like I was, I mean, yes, I'd been drinking it, but I didn't know how to make it. Yeah. Like I was just going to places and getting it. And so I spent a lot of money and I made a ton of cold brew because I could just take and literally what I didn't like, I just ground it up and made cold brew out of it.
And that's, that's a great thing, Aaron. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Cold brew, as we talked about a little bit on a previous episode, it's a good way to take a bean that maybe you don't enjoy, and still have a good mellow cup of coffee. So that's a great idea.
Mellow it out.
If you find a bean that you just spent, oh man, I spent $10 on this bag and I don't really enjoy it, rather than it maybe going to waste, you could do it as a cold brew.
Yeah. So there's a make multiple cups of coffee, right? Try them together, you know, and see what you like. I'm going to say pick up an Ethiopian bag. I'm just going to throw that out there. Like I believe that most people, that even if you don't like coffee, an Ethiopian light roast is a great place to start.
Good starting point.
You're going to get some notes.
Maybe some sweet, lemon, floral notes.
Right. So, and listen, we're going to get on the notes and tones because it is a, God, why did they do this? Like
marketing, baby.
But if you ever look at the actual flavor wheel or tone wheel, it's ridiculous. Somebody really was trying to make this snobbery. Like,
so, and I think what you're talking about as far as starting to taste multiple cups, if you want to know the official snobbish term for what most people say, I did the taste test, the technical term is a cupping. And that just sounds much fancier.
It does.
So, you know,
and by the way, not just coffee, if you follow them on Instagram and you're in the Charlotte area, I want to say on Thursdays
they do some cuppings.
They do cuppings, and it's open to the public.
I believe not just Counterculture at all of their, they have like, I don't know what they're called, but they have cupping.
They do.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot. I think the closest one to us is in Durham, but not just a place that offers Counterculture, but Counterculture distributors or whatever the word would be.
I'm wondering though, and this is purely speculative, I wonder if you went into a decent coffee shop and you said, "Hey, I'm trying to figure out my palate. Can I get a small sample?"
Okay,
have you tried that?
Yeah, hold on. Yes. So you're going to Minnesota in a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
There is a place called.
And I need to go in there and say I don't know what I like.
No, they offer a coffee flight.
Oh.
Ooh, like
They
a beer
offer
flight?
offer a 6-ounce coffee flight. You get 3 different cups of 6-ounce coffee, and it is a great idea.
Dude,
That's cool.
that is genius.
Seriously, genius.
What brewing method? Like just pour overs?
It's
or?
all they do all pour overs,
Sweet.
and they have the automatic pour over heads.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's a cool shop.
But that, I mean, that's. I feel like that's the way to do it. And if coffee shops aren't capitalizing on that, like that is because then you're taking away some of the unknown. You're welcoming people in, and you're allowing them to be able to taste it all right there with.
I would think that any like what we would consider a good coffee shop that cares about what they're doing would probably be accommodating. Now, don't go in at 9 o'clock in the morning when there's 10 people in line and say, "Well, can you try?" But within reason, I would think any barista worth their salt would be like, "Yeah, let me turn you on to a few different things and see what you enjoy."
Sure,
that's a good idea. So, Aaron, we've talked about finding a type of coffee that you like and a method if you're testing this at home. If you want to get like super nerdy, though, what do you think would be a good way to refine your palate even further?
So there is using the term cupping. There is a cupping actual document that walks you through how to record the information. Yes, it gets that, and it gets that
a cupping
nerdy
document.
A cupping document.
Don't Google that. You might find something that you don't want to.
So I'm going to throw this out there. There's a gentleman on YouTube, James Hoffman, Hoffmann, James. This guy is incredible. So if you're in your coffee journey and we're not giving you enough nerdery, go to him and watch his stuff. But he has a cupping video on there of how to properly cup, how to refine your palate and tasting. And so he goes into major detail, but it talks about the document and how to properly do it, how to understand sour versus bitter, how to refine your grind. So if it's bitter, bigger grinds, sour, smaller grinds, where you can really start to dial in. I like this bean, but today it's off a little bit. What do I do? How do you understand sour? Sour's on the side of your tongue, bitter's on the back of your tongue. I know this. I'm trying to tiptoe lightly over the snobbery and the deep hole this is, but that's where you can get with refining your palate. And so guys, I just want you to know they're both making fun of me right now. So
I would never make fun of you.
Him the stank eye. Yeah. No, that's good. And like I said, we'll be up front. We are coffee snobs and nerds, but we don't want to give you incorrect information.
Correct.
And I've seen a couple of this guy's videos. I think he's got like a British accent.
Yeah.
He's very good. So we'll put some links to maybe his videos. He's legit because he's British. We will put some links to those videos in our show notes.
Yeah.
So check that out on YouTube. But
I hope this. I know it was kind of like a light into how to know what you don't know, and I know it's a gentle touch. It wasn't going too deep.
I think though it's a valid conversation. You've got a lot of people that are, hey, I drink coffee every morning to wake up.
Yep.
And they almost maybe don't have. I don't know. Maybe they're. I don't want to use the word scared, but there's a little bit of hesitation to what's next, what else is out there.
Sure.
And once they have tasted something that is different or better, then they're like, "Oh wow, it's a whole new world." But it's removing that barrier to entry, removing that hesitation of, I don't really know what I'm supposed to order or how to order it or what I'm supposed to get is what you're going to get the benefit out of, and the process of not really knowing what you don't know. So it's
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like in anything in life, how do you know you don't like something if you've never tried it? My kid's like, "Ooh, I don't like this Brussels sprout." Well, I'm okay if you don't like a Brussels sprout, but have you ever tried one? So part of it is maybe keeping an open mind and just, hey, I'm going to try a different type of bean today or a different type of brewing if it's available to me. And you know what? I might find out I don't like it, but that's the worst that could happen. What's the best thing? Oh, I enjoy this. Let me dive further down the rabbit holes Aaron likes to do and really hone in on this something I didn't realize I even enjoyed.
Yeah.
So
I hope today was good. I'm glad to have Chad back on the show.
I am too.
Hopefully he won't go back into
If
probation.
he goes on probation, we won't speak of it anymore. It'll be just super secret. Always good to see you, gentlemen. So that about wraps it up for this episode. We're going to continue how to know what you don't know on the next episode. But for now, guys, if anybody needs to get a hold of you, Aaron, where can they reach you?
On Instagram at Aaron Beaver, AARONBEAVER.
Chad?
Lockdoc.net/connect.
LOCDOC.
Yep.
And me, Tyler, Ty Dancy, TYDANCY. So as we wrap up, guys, if you've been enjoying what we've been doing, first off, we really appreciate all the comments and shout outs we've been having. But what would really help us out is if you could take 30 seconds, go to iTunes, give us a review or a like. If you can just help, that just helps us spread the word so we can hopefully reach a larger audience.
We all want to be influencers.
5 stars. 5 stars.
Hashtag hosted. Yes, please, if you give us a review, 5 stars. 5 stars. Hashtag ad. Anyway, that hashtag Coffee Snobs podcast. That about does it for episode 9.
I think so.
And we will see you guys again shortly.
Adios.
Peace.